Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. Dada, with episode 722 of your favorite professional wrestling podcast. That's right, Getting Over is back once again, and it is Thursday, so you know exactly what that means. We are here to break down everything that happened over the last week across NXT and AEW. When it comes to AEW, we had Dynamite right in between, sandwiched in between, like an Oreo cookie. Collision and Dynamite on Saturday and Wednesday, respectively. NXT, this was the penultimate television show ahead of NXT Stand and Deliver, the WrestleMania weekend show coming up next Saturday afternoon. We're going to get to all of that momentarily off the top as we get into this episode. Allow the Silver King to remind you that the Getting Over Wrestling podcast
is all about the five.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify, leave a 5-star rating on Apple, take a little extra time, leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter, at Getting Over on Blue Sky for episode drops, news, analysis, highlights, all of that good stuff. Importantly, this week, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel at Getting Overcast, Getting Over Wrestling Podcast. You can easily find us on YouTube because we have a full-length video interview with none other than WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and we get into it. A lot of interesting topics covered. Make sure you do not miss that interview. It is, of course, on the podcast, and you can listen to it, but we hope you watch it on our YouTube channel as well. That is why we have a YouTube channel, after all. Please also remember,
I happen to love the number 5.
and I hope you do as well, because for $5 a month, $50 for the entire year, you can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reaction to every major show, and exclusive news analysis every week. You get that at buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Now, if the Silver King sounds a bit different today, we messed up our recording schedule. It's been a chaotic week. As you've heard, we've discussed it ad nauseum already on the podcast this week and last week. So I did not have my normal equipment with me. Had to make do the best way I possibly could. But we wanted to make sure we got this NXT and AEW show in for you because our WrestleMania 41 week lineup is absolutely stacked. And because of that, this is something that we do every single year. Next week, there will not be an AEW episode. So 2 weeks from now, we'll basically do a double dose of AEW. We might even do a singular separate episode for AEW to catch up everything. But there is so much happening in the world of WWE. We simply just don't have time to do another episode between the 5 or 6 that we're already going to be doing next week right here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. So a quick reminder, the penultimate WWE show already published Wednesday morning this week. Our exclusive one-on-one interview with WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, published Thursday morning this week, both currently in the feed. Next week, we're going to be back on Tuesday with your WWE WrestleMania 41 Ultimate Preview. You are not going to want to miss that, I promise you. On Wednesday, we'll have your NXT Stand and Deliver Ultimate Preview. Both of those, we're going to break down every single match on the cards. We're going to give you predictions, analysis, and projections of what we expect to happen going forward. We might have a bonus WWE episode during the week. Just depends on what happens from a media standpoint. If we happen to arrange any interviews, that is all to be determined. Also, we don't know what's going to happen on that SmackDown Go Home show Friday night. That might lead us to create a bonus podcast as well. So that remains to be seen. But on Saturday and Sunday, not 1, not 2, 3 instant analysis. First, Saturday afternoon for NXT Stand and Deliver, and then Saturday night and Sunday night for WWE WrestleMania 41, breaking down every single match on the shows, giving you grades, analysis, our hottest takes, and, of course, projections on what we think will happen going forward in WWE and NXT. So there will be a ton of performance-enhancing audio making its way into your ear holes next week, and we want to make sure you can listen to as much as you possibly can. So if you happen to be a first-time listener or an occasional listener, you have us bookmarked, but you haven't fully subscribed, make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, be it Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or elsewhere. All of our audio episodes are also available on YouTube, just so you are aware. Now, we're talking NXT and AEW this week. It's going to be a slightly truncated episode, a little bit lighter on breakdowns, more emphasis on analysis, purely for time reasons. It's just been such a busy week. We're also completely skipping WWE Evolve, and obviously we only spend like 60 seconds on that anyway. I can't imagine we're going to get to that for the next 2 or 3 weeks, so maybe we'll do a 5-minute Evolve breakdown like a month from now or something like that. But eventually we will circle back and talk about it. Before we get into NXT, before we get into AEW.
But I'm afraid I've got some news.
And it's actually just 2 quick items this week, both somewhat related to one another. Sunday night after AEW Dynasty. And that's something else I want to talk about, Sunday night specifically, but after the show. Swerve Strickland cut a promo in the ring because he had family and friends in attendance. And after saying some heartfelt stuff and pro AEW stuff, because of course, and that's fine, he ends by saying, quote, "Fuck Booker T." Drops the mic, rolls out of the ring. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole back and forth discourse between these guys because frankly, it's ridiculous. But I did want to point out, and you all know how much I love Swerve and how much I loved interviewing him immediately after he signed with AEW. One of my favorite conversations we've ever had on this podcast. But Swerve cannot be losing a title match, cutting a promo like this, and then prioritize cursing out someone from another company on his way out of the arena. It's just not a good look in any way. And coupled with that was Will Ospreay. During an interview last week while talking about his cage match with Kyle Fletcher, he says the following, quote, "I can't think of another cage match off the top of my head that pulled off the stunts, the storytelling, the drama, as well as that one did. I mean, people tried to top it the very next day and they couldn't." And I just truly do not understand sometimes what world this guy is living in. Outside of the stipulation, which WWE did not book because of AEW, the 2 matches could not have been further apart in terms of their goals, the wrestlers' talents involved, or anything like that. Seth Rollins and CM Punk certainly did not try to top Ospreay's match, nor do I believe they even had it in mind when they were planning theirs, nor do I believe their agents or producers or the WWE creative team were looking to exceed the stunts in the Ospreay-Fletcher match, because that's what they were. WWE focuses on storytelling through wrestling and through story, not big spots, at least not usually. I bring up these analogous situations for a specific reason, and that's to point out to you that you cannot be out there telling fans, hey, don't be tribal. AEW is great for wrestling because it gives wrestlers and fans options. WWE's success is great for wrestling because a rising tide lifts all boats. When you are out there being the most tribal people in the entire business. Swerve and Ospreay were just 2 examples of this recently. And you know we've seen and heard the same many times in the past. Now you may say, wait a minute, Silver King. Didn't WWE reference AEW on TV a few times over the last week? Absolutely they did. There was a stark difference between making veiled references about another place or a competitor, particularly if you're not dissing them, but just referring to incidents that happened or prior parts, let's say, of wrestlers' lives, than being directly tribal, such as cursing at another company's employee after a pay-per-view or taking direct shots in interviews. AEW, they've made veiled WWE references on TV before, and those were always the ones I liked the most. It's when they would make the direct references or talk shit, such as the grinding on the boss's daughter comment. That's the stuff I criticize. It makes me believe truly that Zack Sabre Jr. was 100% spot on about Ospreay. The point here is don't be a hypocrite. Either you're for tribalism and you want to tear WWE and the people that work there down, or you actually believe tribalism is bad for the industry and the wrestlers and the fans. And if that's the case, make your veiled references when appropriate and otherwise go about your business. I mean, shit, we had Drew McIntyre on the show this week. He mentioned All In unprompted. Didn't say a bad word about it. Noted that it was the biggest independent wrestling show ever. Be like Drew. Act like adults and professionals. The problem is, I don't think this is going to change about AEW and those who work there because the entire company and fan base was built on tribalism. And that was probably fine for the first couple of years. But now it is really time to grow up. So that wraps up this brief news segment, if you even want to call it that. I probably need something else when we're not actually breaking down news. We're just discussing things that happen in the ether of professional wrestling. But we have a ton still to cover on this episode. We're talking NXT and AEW. We'll have timestamps in the episode description, so you can go ahead and jump around if you so choose. As always, I hope you listen to the entire show. So starting with NXT, Obafemi, Trick Williams, and Javon Evans fought Dark State. Javon backstage said he told the guys Dark State was going to be an issue, but they didn't listen and instead little broed him. But he's taken Oba down twice and gotten in Trick's business, so he's confident. Trick later promised to whip both Oba and Javon's asses. Femi cut his promo first at Dark State, just given how many times they've attacked him, saying they and then Williams and Evans would fall at his hands. These were all fine. Javon was probably the best of the bunch, if we're being honest. Now, I enjoyed the presentation of Dark State out to the ring. Saquon Sugars and Evans went at it, harkening back to their indie days together. You can see Sugars just has it all. His gear, though, was atrocious. Williams and Femi teamed up at one point to help Evans. Exceptional spinebuster from Dion Jordan. Tremendous sell from Javon. Finisher caliber, really, that spinebuster. Oba murked fools on a hot tag, threw Saquon into Trick. Seemed to be purposeful because it's tough to do that accidentally. Javon blind tagged as Oba and Trick started brawling. He had a huge frog splash on Jordan, but Sugars pulled the rope on a springboard. Dark State hit an elevated flying powerbomb for the win. Every take that I've had on Dark State remained the same after this match. I like the concept. I like the energy. I like the look. Cutler James is totally out of place. Sugars has like 65% of the group's charisma. Jordan has the other 25%. Osiris Griffin has the other 10. I just truly do not understand the criticisms of this group. Believe it's people just wanting to shit on something because it has similarities to stuff they have seen before. They are presented as a younger group that doesn't respect rules or authority, which is actually somewhat different from what S.H.I.E.L.D. was and what Retribution were. It's drastically different than what Retribution was. And you know what? It's drastically different from what the S.H.I.E.L.D. was as well. And sure, there may be some visual similarities, like they have the same, cloth masks over their face that, the S.H.I.E.L.D. used for 2 weeks. They're not wearing the stupid masks or tactical vests or anything like that. So I'm into them. The breakdown of the title competitors and Javon taking the fall, all that was expected, of course. Stax appeared on the big screen at the end of the show, challenging Dark State to a parking lot brawl next week, which that means someone's going to get murked, right? Like, it's a mafia family and the most dangerous place in professional wrestling. So someone shouldn't make it out of the parking lot. Quite a go-home match. Extremely curious to see what that's going to look like, especially because it should be a 3-on-4 disadvantage, right? There's only 3 men in D'Angelo family right now. So that'll be interesting. Jordan Grace fought Jada Parker. This opened the show with Stephanie Vaquer watching from ringside, with fans under the presumption that she would choose her number 1 contender after the match. Jada dominated early with her signatures. Grace powered into a reverse tombstone that was actually almost a toss German suplex. That was the highlight. I saw people shitting on this move. I thought it looked good. Jordan's knee pad getting caught on the middle rope during a tope suicida attempt, that was a low light. Near disaster. Jada was so far back because she was expecting a huge dive to take her over the table, she could barely even help her. The match was ruled a no contest once they got into it with Stephanie. Giulia shockingly saved and aided Vaquer clearing the ring, only to grab her for a headbutt and a Northern Lights bomb with a boot firmly on her face while on the canvas for what seemed like a heel turn. In the parking lot, Giulia addressed that turn, saying no friends, rematch. Commentary, and we love Vic Joseph and Booker T and Corey Graves. They were terrible here. I mean, it was super weak selling this turn. They acted as if it was like a return and a surprise, but they didn't get up for the way she turned her back on what to this point had been her best friend in NXT. Beyond that, holy shit, am I confused as to what happened here with Giulia. Shawn Michaels pulls the title off of her, creates a double champion, then had her defend the titles once before relinquishing one of them, only for Giulia to just come back. The literal only explanation I can conjure is that this was one of those situations where WWE feared Giulia would be absent long-term. Injury, mental health, family issue, visa problem, whatever the case. And it had to move quickly because Stand and Deliver was coming up. So if they needed a new champion and they needed to change the main program, then they needed to take the title off Giulia right away and figure it out. And if she could come back for some reason, they just throw her into the match. It's very similar to what happened with Roxanne Perez a couple years ago, where she relinquished the title, ended up competing for it in the ladder match anyway, and then Indy Hartwell won, only to drop it and move to the main roster. Otherwise, if that's not the case, I simply do not get this booking whatsoever. But I'm giving the benefit of the doubt simply because NXT Creative is otherwise far too logical. But if I find out they don't deserve the benefit of the doubt, then I will certainly criticize them over it. Now, clearly the direction here was a 4-way for Stand and Deliver. That was confirmed later in the show by Ava. On one hand, I'm glad Parker's involved here because she deserves to be in the NXT main event scene. On the other, She's in this Bianca Belair role right now, where she has never been given a title in NXT and may well get called up to the main roster without ever getting strapped. It remains nonsensical to me why she is not the primary contender and favorite for the North American Championship. She should have been the first winner, especially when they're adding Roxanne to a different match, and Roxanne Perez could have been part of this match and would have made a lot more sense. But, I guess we'll just have to see, because maybe Perez is dealing with her own plans change situation, as we've talked about, involving, maybe a Cora Jade, a Bayley, a Becky Lynch, a lot of stuff. Looks like it wasn't finalized until a few weeks ago. Later backstage on NXT, Vaquer told Ava her decision is that she wants all of them, and Ava just said, okay. That was the entirety of this match booking on the penultimate show, which was immensely disappointing in the silo. WWE, they have the strange habit of making announcements backstage and on social media rather than in front of fans. I do not understand it whatsoever. One of the reasons in the Drew McIntyre interview that he didn't directly answer questions about Damian Priest is because he was waiting for WWE to announce it. And I'll just give you a little breaking the fourth wall. He told me, I think after the interview or whatever the case, he's like, I think we're just going to announce it on Friday, like presumably on the show. And they announced it Thursday on social media. And then Friday on social media, they announced New Day against War Raiders for the World Tag Team Championships at WrestleMania. They're just announcing WrestleMania matches on social media, not on TV, not getting reactions. I don't understand what WWE is doing from that standpoint. Ricky Saints opened hour 2 with his first extended solo promo. He celebrated his win and his place in NXT before saying Ethan Page's attack left a sour taste in his mouth. And it all came because his ego was shattered. Lexis King answered instead, followed by Eddie Thorpe, who said he should have been focused on the North American title this entire time, given that's the land that was stolen from his people. Wesley was out next, saying he needs to be in any conversation about a championship like that, given his all-time reign. Thorpe had a really fire line calling King a greedy white man, and that caused Lee's mouth to drop. It was funny because he was the only white man in the ring, and obviously a Native American saying that and talking about the North American Championship. It's just kind of cool, I think. Page then snuck in from behind, rocked Saints with twisted grin before all 4 of the would-be challengers brawled. My hope upon hope was that this would be something that would create a number 1 contender situation and not be another multi-person match on WrestleMania weekend. There was no indication in the moment, but that was later announced in the show. There's going to be a 4-way number 1 contendership. I just presume it's going to be Page coming out on top. We had West against Yoshiki and Amora. This was a lot of fun, as you might expect. All the seconds got involved. They distracted Yoshi, allowed West to hit cardiac kick for the win. Swipe Right offered to give advice to Hank and Tank after they beat Fraxium, since they've been seeking help from experienced teams. The faces agreed that they aren't desperate and didn't give a shit about them. The Culling said as a group planning to get back the North American title until Shawn Spears stopped them, saying he was glad to win gold, but the title is not their focus. It was a vehicle to get them united, and the focus now turns to Izzy Dame winning the women's version of the title and the guys excelling in the tag team division, because it's always been about all of them shining. As I said before, this is everything I generally do not like in wrestling factions, and yet for some strange reason that I literally cannot explain, I am into this foursome. I don't know why. Fraxium fought Swipe Right in a non-title match. Really nice springing spear from Ricky Smokes, which is such a great heel name. Swipe Right itself is a great heel name. Fraxium were fully on their game with running Spanish flies and standing shooting star presses. Finish was excellent, with Frazier hitting a Phoenix splash and covering as Axiom prevented a breakup simultaneously with the golden ratio on the other side of the ring. Swipe Right, they bumped their asses off for the champions, really helped Fraxium show out for a fun TV segment. Whether that helped get eyeballs on Evolve, it's really tough to say. Thought it was strange that there was not a direct build to a title match for Stand and Deliver after this was over. It's one show away. One of the best tag team debuts I can remember in NXT, just the way Swipe Right worked backstage and in the ring. I doubt they're going to be regulars now, but it was cool to see how they naturally fit into what NXT is, despite being way younger than even most of the people there. We had Hank and Tank against the Culling. Hank missed a swanton bomb that looked like a somersault. The heels capitalized with tandem flying knee inverted power slam type of move for the win. I'm sure there's a name for that. I'm just too tired to remember. Right winners, just given the trajectory of both teams right now, actually exceeded expectations, given 3 of the 4 guys in this match were neophytes. Later backstage, the Street Profits came across Hank and Tank, telling them not to try to be teams that are not them. Basically, be themselves. It'll all work out. And they didn't want them to have an identity crisis. That's another way to put it. Then they announced that Ava told them about a gauntlet number 1 contendership match next week. The Profits were crazy hype, which was kind of funny when combined with Hank and Tank. The gauntlet match booking, it is as lame as a booking could possibly be, because Number one, they're doing that on SmackDown with the women's tag team titles. And number two, Fraxium has basically defeated every team in NXT. The teams in this match are literally all of the usual suspects that we normally see. So unless there's attack and a team gets taken out, or the Hardy Boys surprise or something like that, it seems real basic. Or maybe my booking the damn territory with Randy Orton might come to fruition and this is another plans change situation. I doubt it, but maybe. Fatal Influence backstage refused to allow Fallon Henley to again go after the North American title, with Jasmine Nix demanding she get the opportunity this time around. So first we had Sol Ruca against Nix. This was a qualifier for that ladder match. Jasmine really impressed here with a perfect plex, moved into a bridged wrenching neckbreaker. Ruca hit a backpack stunner that was more like a backpack Samoan drop. Influence distracted and got into it with Zarya ringside. That allowed Jasmine to hit the Nix kick, but Ruca just kicked out and then moved into Soul Snatcher and advanced. This was easily the best match of Jasmine's career. She has made incredible progress in the ring. Soul had to win, just given the prominence of the match, the angle with Zarya already competing for the title. I did not like that she kicked out of the finisher, though. You got to save that for way, way later in someone's career, unless you're going to change the finisher and use it as a setup going forward. And the Nix kick probably should be a setup, just the way it looks, but we'll see what they do. Ren Sinclair fought Izzy. This match was solid, but lesser just by comparison. Sinclair was clearly better than Dame, and it's frustrating that she's not getting more featured spots of late. Dame won with a catch Liger bomb, but the finish got screwed up because Izzy thought the referee's knee hit the canvas was the first of the 3 count, so she started backing off the cover after 2. And they eventually rang the bell anyway and counted it, but this was bad. It just did not look good. It's pure inexperience. You always got to keep the cover until you hear the bell when you're working a finish and you're not positive whether that first count counted. But look, if you're going to make a mistake, do it in developmental. That's the entire point of them working in NXT. Perez, Lash Legend, and Influence were complaining to Ava that there's better be some type of last chance qualifier for the ladder match. Ava said that would not be happening. But she recognized all their talent, and she said she had an idea for the show. Perez warned it better not be a tag team match since she doesn't even have a partner. Yeah, I don't really have an answer for this. You have 2 multi-person matches all ready for the main titles, a number 1 contendership ladder match with multiple people. That's 3 already. Is there going to be a 4th? What could this even be? And since there are still 2 spots in the ladder match available, yet none of these women are going to be taking those spots, who is competing in those qualifiers, and why weren't those matches announced on NXT? Looking at the roster, the names I came across were Cora Jade, Lola Vice, maybe Tatum Paxley or Gigi Dolan, Thea Hale in a return, Carmen Petrovic. Those were the main ones not involved in either of these segments. I guess we're going to find out next week or something, but it's odd that Roxy is involved in something this convoluted and not anything more prominent than this. Beyond that, the go-home show for NXT's biggest event of the year next week will have 2 number 1 contendership matches, 2 qualifiers for a ladder match, and whatever this is going to be. That's booking 3 or maybe 2 weeks out if you're cutting it close, not the literal go-home show. Now, I presume this is because NXT ran all of those special events in close proximity, but man, outside of the men's championship match, and trust me, it is a shock to actually say that is the best built bout on the card. But some of these bookings and the timing of them are definitely confusing. That said, the matches themselves look like they're going to be bangers. But, I mean, going into Stand and Deliver, you want a much more focused piece of booking than what we're currently getting from NXT. Lastly, by the way, Andre Chase got roped into providing advice to the guys that have been following him around. I meant to mention that earlier, but I just forgot. So that wraps up NXT. It was an entertaining 2 hours, as it pretty much always is. But as you can tell, I was definitely frustrated with parts of the show. I will remind you, next week on Wednesday, NXT Stand and Deliver Ultimate Preview. You do not want to miss it. Let's move over to AEW. Real quick, before we get into the breakdown of the Collision segments that did not impact Dynasty and the entirety of Dynamite, match grades from Dynasty as promised. Some of these might actually surprise you. So Will Ospreay, Kevin Knight, 3.75 stars B+. Hurt Syndicate, Learning Tree, 2.25 stars C. Mercedes Moné, Julia Hart, 3 stars B-. Death Riders, rated FTR, 3.5 stars B. Tony Storm, Megan Bain, 4 stars A-. I might be slightly low on that one. Kyle Fletcher, Mark Briscoe, 4.25 stars A. Bandito, Chris Jericho, 2.75 stars C+. But I really did hate the finish here, and I actually was enjoying the match prior to that. Adam Cole, Daniel Garcia, 2.5 stars C. Kenny Omega, Mike Bailey, Ricochet, 4.25 stars A. And Jon Moxley, Swerve Strickland, 2.25 stars C. From a match standpoint, one of the most disappointing AEW pay-per-views. And as I said, on the instant analysis, not a show that I would have spent $50 for, not a show I did. spend $50 for. One thing I do want to add about Dynasty, I didn't say this Sunday night because I felt like it was a personal complaint and not indicative of how the wider fan base would have felt. But I've since seen that I was not alone in feeling this way. That show ended way, way, way too effing late. To the point that, frankly, it was disrespectful to both the viewing audience and the fans in attendance. 2 different listeners who went to the show told me Dynasty ran so long they were unable to get their expected public transit home, and they almost got stuck. And I searched social media to find out, is that a common issue? It was. Straight up disrespectful. And for viewers at home, ending a show after 12:30 a.m. on a Sunday going into a work week without a holiday, that's ridiculous. If you want a show to go 4.5 hours, start it at 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. The reason I dislike WWE's occasional early starts are because the shows generally still go 3 hours, so it's unnecessary to do it. But if you're AEW and you're running a long show, start it early. That's why I'm happy about the timing of the All In. But yeah, personally, it absolutely ruined the start to my week. I had a long drive on Monday morning. It just crushed me. And it's unfortunate, actually, to see that I wasn't alone in that being a problem. 7 of 11 matches this week across AEW TV were storyline relevant, which was nice because it was going into and coming out of a pay-per-view. Now let's go ahead and break down everything that happened. Jon Moxley and Death Riders opened Dynamite with a tape promo. Mox said AEW has the single greatest roster of pure talent ever assembled, yet they can't get their act together. The video we saw as he spoke, it included Hook, single greatest roster of talent ever assembled. He said he doesn't recognize the Young Bucks' position in the industry anymore, and they better be careful before they make any more moves. Okay. This led to Mox against Katsuyori Shibata in a non-title match stemming from the brief Dynasty attack. He won with a thumb to the eye and bulldog choke. Really disappointing match. The Jacksons came out, so Mox, who wanted answers from them just minutes earlier, he just left. They said they screwed Swerve Strickland both for Hangman Page and as a peace offering to the Riders. They realized they failed trying to take over AEW while the Riders succeeded. But they're the same since they want AEW to be the best and to change the world. Are we really doing this again?
Are you fucking kidding me?
So Kenny Omega interrupts, reminding that they took him out while recovering from diverticulitis when they're supposed to be trying to restore the feeling. AEW is 5 years old. It has been trying to restore the feeling for half of its existence. How long is this concept still going to be uttered? Are we really going to keep doing this through 2025? Then he starts talking about a friend's dog shitting on the floor and how that was the Bucks without him in AEW. Fans chanted dookie because that's the word he said. And that just told me point blank that some AEW fans will support literally any dookie storyline this company puts forward. Omega recalled the shredding of records, saying they were spending the company's money. And I think he suggested they were cucks at one point. He said they almost killed AEW and made fun of them, jokes that just didn't land, but fans laughed anyway. He went to fight them when the coin dropped. Kazuchika Okada came out in a baggy suit that looked like a raincoat. He looked like a North Korean dictator, except, actually tall. So Swerve came out with a chair. They fist bumped. Omega left. Swerve said it was buck hunting season. Pac blindsided him. Omega, who just left literal seconds earlier, nowhere to save him. They had a match scheduled because I guess he's a Death Rider, and so Swerve was angry at him. I've long maintained that Omega is a far better promo than people say he is. But holy shit, this was one of the worst promos of all time because he's such a prominent person. And it was simply an awful segment, the way it was paced and structured and put together. It meandered, tried to connect dots and make something out of the ending to Dynasty. In the end, it was just a bunch of mush. If you are a hardcore Elite fan, then okay, yeah, you care about all these guys being involved with one another in a top storyline. I get that. But if you're me, and the only people you liked in this entire segment at this juncture in their runs are Omega and Swerve, then it was almost impossible to stomach, especially since Omega was the weakest point, potentially. It was clear they were trying to build something big with all the major faces getting together to fight an expanded group of heels. And by the way, does Will Ospreay not care about any of this? Is he not like the babyface in AEW along with Hangman Page, who also didn't show up here, and Swerve and Kenny Omega? Really, though, the entire concept of this story, the Bucks playing Rikishi to Hangman's Rock, deciding to align with the Riders because they can't beat them, so they're joining them, even though they're the EVPs of the damn company. Okada just being back alongside them, but Jack Perry still not being there. It is so immensely convoluted and ill-conceived. I felt like I was taking crazy pills on Wednesday. So Swerve fought Pac after this. Match was going okay until Swerve countered a Hurricanrana with a buckle bomb that came nowhere close to landing. Instead, Pac's head glanced off the top turnbuckle and his ankle crumpled underneath him. He immediately screamed, couldn't stand. Swerve did 2 safe moves, I guess kind of to waste time. Pac rolls out of the ring. He gets checked live on TV. They don't go to commercial, nothing. Commentary basically promotes this. They're saying, yeah, anything can happen in AEW. Yeah, wrestlers can get injured. What are you trying to say? Pac rolled in so Swerve could kick him in the face and hit Swerve Stomp to just end the match and get the win and just move this along. Most important here, I hope Pac is okay. Okay, it's clear this is a serious lower leg injury. His history of ailments is such a laundry list at this point that it's absolutely ridiculous. This guy barely gets opportunities to wrestle while healthy. When he is healthy, he is only there half the time. It's just really shitty, all things considered. And his booking is tough too, because if he's not there all the time, and you can't trust him to stay healthy, then what exactly do you have him do? He's so amazing in the ring, but he's just not there. As for Swerve, necessary win coming off Dynasty, but dude needs to use Swerve Stomp only in situations where it makes sense. The whole nature of opponents unnaturally sitting up and looking straight at him in the corner, not rolling over or doing anything to stop him, it's inherently ridiculous. It looked great at Dynasty with Mox on the ladder because that spot made sense. He was hanging there. He was trying to sit up to untangle his legs and he ate the Swerve Stomp. But 90% of the time, it looks like absolute dog shit. And it makes even less sense for him to use it as a finisher when he actively has 2 better ones in House Call and JML Driver. I forget what that one's called now. On Dynamite, Hangman Page stormed into Swerve's locker room. He wasn't there, so he yelled to Prince Nana. He was not trying to help Strickland at Dynasty. He threatened for Swerve to stay out of his business during the Owen and went to leave when Nana started telling him that he regretted what happened last year. Page cut him off. He refused to hear it. Now look, I continue to be all in with the idea of Hanger and Swerve somehow coming to an understanding and teaming up. And this is being played extremely well so far. But if Hangman wasn't out at Dynasty to help Swerve, then why was he there? Was he going to cost him the title? If he wasn't there to help Swerve, why do you hit Mox with Deadeye? Right? So what is it? Or is he just not able to come to the realization that that's what he was going to do? On Dynamite, the Ops fought the Death Riders as main evented. Mox distracted late in the match, allowing Wheeler Yuta to gouge Hook's eyes. Shibata, Samoa Joe, and Hook all simultaneously choked out the Riders from behind with Yuta tapping out. So Yuta goes down just like that after those couple of wins where it looked like, they might actually be doing something with him. So as this ends, Mox is getting the life choked out of him by Shibata ringside. I mean, he's turning blue in the face. And that makes sense because of what he did to Shibata earlier in the show, right? Marina Shafir runs in with a chair. She doesn't save Mox. She goes after Hook. Then the other guys join in. Mox is still getting the life choked out of him ringside. He's the leader of the group. This is a world champion by Shibata, who loses all the time. The only reason Shibata stopped was because he saw his friends were getting hurt, so he let go, went after them, immediately got killed. And he ultimately failed because Claudio Castagnoli just manhandled a couple dudes and then gently put Hook into an upturned chair with a neutralizer. And I'm glad it was gentle because Hook might have been concussed. He vomited in the ring at least once, I think twice, and no one stopped the match or prevented that spot from happening. What was that Taz said back in the day? Does it apply when there's literal vomit on the canvas and it's his son? But hopefully he was just sick or something. Maybe his stomach got upset because he ate something or drank something right before. Fingers crossed that's the case. But if you see a wrestler vomit in the ring, you stop them and don't let them do anything else because that is a potential symptom of a head injury. Joe yelled at the Riders for running away when he came in with a chair. I think he called them pussies. That was 3 forced bleeped curses on a single episode of TV. Joe challenged for the trios titles. Now, presumably, I guess Mox is going to have to step in for Pac, or I guess one of the Bucks could, or Jack Perry could join them, or they just pick up another Death Rider. But yeah, I don't know what the hell they're going to do. By the way, as all this shit was happening, no Swerve, no Omega, no Hangman. On Collision, Chris Statlander and Thunder Rosa met backstage for a basic confrontation, with Rosa saying she has to win this for her family and her legacy, and Stat didn't know what it was like to be the main champion in the company. Stat talked shit about her father and back injury, even grabbed her neck, and no-sold a slap across the face. This was immensely heelish from Stat. I thought she had turned that corner, but I guess not. On Collision, Jamie Hayter and Billy Stark shook hands backstage, with Hayter respecting the first matchup performance. She wondered why Athena is all up in Billy's business. Starks cut an unconvincing promo coming back. I just really don't get what Hayter is going for with this look. I mean, with the blonde hair and the black hair, like the combination, she looks so different and unique in this. I just don't get it. These were both first round Owen promotional segments, so I'm glad that they actually gave some attention to it. It feels like they're giving the women's Owen a lot more attention than the men's when it comes to actually promoting the matches, and I appreciate that. On Dynamite, Stat fought Rosa. Tony Storm was on commentary for this match. Why this particular match, I don't necessarily know, but she did her normal shtick. She tried to break the commentary team the entire time. Rosa got most of the offense until Saturday Night Fever ended it for Chris. It sure looked like she dropped thunder on her head in like a pretty clunky finish. Storm stood on the announce table and applauded, but this was a really entertaining match. Stat showed out in a significant way, and that was badly needed for her. On Dynamite, Will Ospreay, Speedball Mike Bailey, Mark Briscoe, and Kevin Knight fought Ricochet, The Crew, and the Beast Mortos in a $400,000 8-man tag team match. The concept of these random money matches remains straight up ridiculous. I've said it before, so I'm not going to repeat myself. But if they fight for money here, why would they fight non-title matches in any other scenario? Why is money up for grabs here and not at other times? Why so much money? These guys must all be making millions of dollars if they can earn $100,000 from being 25% of a winning team in a match like this. I guess I repeated myself, even though I said I wasn't going to. There was a cool single camera shot of all four faces doing dives to different part of the ringside area. Unfortunately, by it being a single camera shot, it showed how the heels were just standing around waiting, and it made it look even more fake than it already is. Ricochet then did his flip out of the ring where he lands on the mat, which is always spectacular. He didn't touch anyone, so the faces all slapped him on his bald head. Now, the reason that spot normally works is because someone either dodges a move or he does it to confront someone, like he did with Velveteen Dream. And the pop is always enormous. In this case, he just jumped into empty space, and I thought it looked immensely stupid. Also, I wanted to yell at Briscoe like I was Elaine on Seinfeld. You're bald. The finish was also insanely confusing. The faces all hit signatures on Mortos, with Knight hitting his finisher, that really sick-ass frog splash. Yet the heels all simultaneously broke the fall, only for Ospreay seconds later to hit Hidden Blade and get the win. Why didn't you put Knight over here? You have this guy show out against Ospreay and Jay White, and he loses both those matches, which he should have because they're Ospreay and Jay White. Now you have an 8-man with Mortos, who always loses. He just took a flood of offense, and you still won't let Knight get the 1, 2, 3? Why wouldn't you let Ospreay do the Hidden Blade and then have Knight fly in and hit that frog splash, which is sick, and get the win and get the pop and put him over? Ridiculous booking. On Collision, White showed up with a broken left hand, cutting a promo on Ospreay, saying he's only the self-proclaimed GOAT and his words will catch up with him soon enough. He blamed Death Riders for his problems, saying now he has time to create a plan and make them regret their actions. Great promo from Jay here, probably one of his best in AEW. Too bad it was while walking off to the injured list for a few months. On Dynamite, Hurt Syndicate held a championship celebration for beating the Outrunners and Learning Tree? The Outrunners and Learning Tree? A championship celebration. MJF entered and stood next to them like it was natural. He said he turned down competing in the Owen because he's too smart to work hard, and instead the Syndicate will help him win the title. Bobby Lashley shut him up, saying MJF trying to help was cute, but he didn't get the job done. Huh? They argued. MVP said MJF can only join if they all agree. It was only MVP in the affirmative. Lashley backstage repeated that he doesn't like and they don't need MJF. Shelton Benjamin then called him like a little George Costanza, saying he's kind of funny. Somehow MJF entered the room as they simultaneously walked out, but there was no interaction. They didn't see each other. It was off camera. Like you would think there'd be a commotion or something. You'd see that interaction. Nothing. He asked MJF why he's being treated. He asked MVP why he's being treated like a punk bitch. MVP said this business and his reputation precedes him. And what good salespeople do is they find out what their clients want and then they sell it to them. Now you'll remember after Dynasty, we said Lashley needed to be straight up furious at what MJF did. Instead, he was mad that MJF didn't interfere more. They needed more help against the effing Learning Tree. Is that not illogical to anyone else? Also, why are you kind of painting them as heels who want to cheat when they are one of the most over groups in this entire company, one of the most over people or teams or whatever you want to call them in the entire company? I love the interactions between all of these guys. I'm glad this angle is happening. It's actually interesting, and it's something different for AEW, kind of. I mean, MJF did the same thing with the Inner Circle back in the day, but still, it's fresh. The story beats, though, they're what's not really hitting for me, including that backstage segment. Why are they comparing MJF to George Costanza? They are literally nothing alike as characters other than that they're both Jewish and they lie, but for completely different reasons. So yeah, I was frustrated here. On Dynamite, Penelope Ford spoke on Megan Bane's behalf backstage, saying Toni Storm sneaking away with the title will only make Bane's destruction in AEW worse. Then Bane cut her off, saying everyone should bow down to her. First of all, the ladies were so far out in this segment that as a red-blooded male, I have absolutely no choice but to say.
Gonna look good, but she's got me saying, hey now!
It was nice that Ford got to speak and support Bane. We still have been given zero reason for their relationship. No information about how they got together. Nothing. On Dynamite, Tony Schiavone spoke into the camera shitting on FTR for attacking Adam Copeland the way they did at Dynasty. He even mentioned Dax's daughter. After that, they better beat the ever-loving shit out of Tony. Though, I guess that would be more of a face move to me than a heel move. He did mention Pinnacle in his promo, obviously the group that FTR and MJF were in together. Perhaps the Hurt Syndicate rejects MJF. That leads to them reforming. They had a completely different fourth person. Or maybe they bring Wardlow back and they just forget everything that happened. Could you imagine that? On Collision, Konosuke Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher beat Powerhouse Hobbs and Tomohiro Ishii. So many wrestlers in AEW, so many guys who would want to fight the Don Callis family. They just throw Ishii into this for no reason. He got busted open on the bridge of his nose, took a fall with the proto driver. I guess that was the reason. This was a PPV go-home show. By the way, yeah, this match was on it. On Dynamite, Don Callis said the family is now accepting potential new members, given the rash of injuries that have hit them of late. I know Mark Davis is hurt. I believe I saw something about Brian Cage. Is Lance Archer out as well? If so, man, damn. By the way, this faction has existed for less than 2 years, and it's had 10 members. How about we just stop replacing people, or give them Mortos and Dralistico since Roosh has disappeared again? What's going on with all of these guys? On Dynamite, Kyle O'Reilly said backstage that Undisputed Not Kingdom are the elite of the elite, and Adam Cole winning the TNT Championship proves that. This is the 4th men's title, but it proves they're elite. Let's not forget that. Roderick Strong then seemed to suggest they go after the tag team titles. Adam Cole said it's a new era in AEW. Get it? And they are now known as the Paragon. So they really just wrote Kingdom completely out of this, as I've been joking about for months now. That's amazing. Why did O'Reilly refer to them as Undisputed Kingdom at the start of the promo if they were going to introduce a new name? It truly feels like these guys have just been doing the exact same act for a decade now. Zero progression other than Strong suddenly having a character that consists of yelling a name to start a promo. On Dynamite, Chris Jericho came out for the return of TV time. He called out the others, saying he was disappointed that they were not there with titles. So Big Bill cut a promo saying they were under the learning tree to learn, not to be berated and publicly humiliated, because if that's what it was going to be about, they would leave. I liked Bill standing up for himself. The promo would have been far more effective if he spoke with a different cadence other than this. Boring as sin. Jericho said he handpicked them because he believes in them. Their victories are his victories. Their failures are his failures. Then he kept repeating, I'm not angry, I'm disappointed. And he slammed his bat into the TV over and over again. And he said until they no longer make him disappointed, it's best for him to leave. Outside of my comments on Bill's promo, honestly, I don't have that much else here. The best part of this segment was a fan yelling at Jericho, suck on a maple leaf. That was hilarious. It tried to be dramatic. No one actually cares about the faction, kind of fell flat. Jericho's going off on tour, and that's the entire reason for this. The question's going to be, are Bill and Keith actually going to be built as a tag team and become something? Or are they just going to be fodder for others, or perhaps not even be on TV until Jericho returns? We'll find out. And lastly, on Collision, Shane Taylor Promotions cut a promo that, they basically said nothing. This is a jobber group that stays losing. If you're going to give dudes like this time on a go-home show to a pay-per-view, they need to be saying something of value. This was absolutely not that. So that wraps up this breakdown of NXT and AEW. As mentioned, I tried to get through all of this as quickly as I possibly could. A reminder, next week on Wednesday, you're going to have an NXT Stand and Deliver Ultimate Preview. There will not be an AEW episode next week. We're going to do a double dose of AEW 2 weeks from now after WWE WrestleMania 41. In terms of the schedule and podcasts that you can listen to, we have our penultimate WWE show. It was published Wednesday morning. Our one-on-one interview with WWE superstar Drew McIntyre was published Thursday morning. Both are currently in the feed. You can also find them on YouTube at Getting Overcast. The Drew McIntyre interview, of course, on video, and all of our podcast episodes, the audio is available on YouTube. Next week, we'll be back on Tuesday, WWE WrestleMania 41 Ultimate Preview. I already mentioned Wednesday, NXT Stand and Deliver Ultimate Preview. There might be a bonus WWE episode Thursday or Friday, depending how things work out. And then 3 instant analysis in 2 days on Saturday. NXT Stand and Deliver instant analysis midday, WWE WrestleMania 41 instant analysis at night. And then on Sunday, your WWE WrestleMania 41 Night 2 instant analysis, completing the week. It's going to be a banger of performance-enhancing audio, one after another, right here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. If you do not subscribe already, make sure you do. If you are a long-term listener, please remember that on this show,
It's all about the 5.
so head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify, leave a 5-star rating on Apple, take a little extra time, leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter, at Getting Over on Blue Sky for episode drops, news, analysis, highlights, all of that good stuff. You can also send in questions and comments for the show, DMs, tweets, and posts. We'll do our best to read them on the air. And lastly, please remember,
I happen to love the number 5.
and I hope you do as well, $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover, sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news posts every week. Again, that is buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Thank you all so much for your patience this week with our delayed publishing, but we hope the performance-enhancing audio we delivered to your ear holes was worth it. We have a loaded WrestleMania 41 week ahead, so the Silver King is going to save his voice until then. It is time for me to sign off and leave you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.